Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajahat Ali, who just spent an hour of my life voluntarily debating just some of the worst folks, the worst hypocrites on Piers Morgan's show, where Piers Morgan and Carrie Lake and Aaron Bowling said that I am to blame for increasing the hate and pressure in this country, not Donald Trump, not Republicans, but me, Wajahat Ali, a minivan driver. So you are now looking at one of the most influential people on earth. Welcome, Daniel.
I mean, so here's what I said, folks. One, good morning or good afternoon, and happy everyone is here. It's been quite the weekend. But this is what I said. I'm going to say this to Waj again in front of an audience, which is that we need to decide where to put our energy. And there comes a point when doing these types of shows like Piers Morgan, like going on Fox, like going on networks that are not interested in actually expanding conversation or they're not interested in information, they just want a food fight. And I think that there is so many places like your Substack, which is brilliant and everyone should be following, the Left Hook, where you're actually doing things of substance, and Piers Morgan is not one of them. Those are my thoughts.
Well, there's someone saying my volume is low. Let me know. Is it low, Danielle?
You can turn it up a little bit.
Okay, I'll turn it up. It was just, I go there because it was actually real quick before we get into it, because we were talking about the rally yesterday, and I wanted to say, I actually wanted to bring the temperature down. What I said was, well, first and foremost, they were all blaming the left. The left, I said, it was Tyler Perry, a 22-year-old white man from a conservative Trump voting family. And Governor Cox, he came out and said it wasn't a Muslim, wasn't an immigrant, it was one of us. So then Pierce interrupted me and said it was the radical left. And I'm like, nah, lying is a sin. A couple of days ago, the FBI itself said there's no proof whatsoever he was a radical leftist. And I also said there's no proof that he was radical right-wing. Seemed like a white guy radicalized allegedly online has access to guns. But then it was interesting, even though they had Erica.
Sorry, you said Tyler Perry, and it is Tyler Robinson.
Tyler Perry just makes terrible movies. Sorry, Tyler Perry, but you're not catching strays for this one. My bad.
Sorry, Tyler.
But what's really fascinating about it is the following: no responsibility for their actions, no responsibility for their own words, no recognition that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. They want the ability, Danielle, to say what they want unrestrained. Civility for me, cruelty for thee. Safe space for me, no safe space for thee. We can say whatever we want, and you all have to take it. But if you use your First Amendment speech to respond, then you're the hate monger and you're the racist. Huh, Danielle? Hasn't it always been this way in America? If you call us out for supporting segregation, you're divisive. If you call us out for using the QAnon conspiracy to say that we're all a bunch of rapists, you're the one who's divisive. And then Eric tried desperately to bring out the transgender card, and he said there's more transgender shooters than transgender people. I called it out all bullshit. But then even Tim Miller, I'm going to call him out real quick. Tim Miller is a white guy, a former, what do you call it? A never Trump Republican.
Yeah.
Who then threw me under the bus and said people like Wajahat and others are increasing the temperature, And I sat there, I'm like, Tim's a white man, and Tim allows his whiteness to engage in civility politics and tone police the rest of us. And what they said was, Wajahat, you used Charlie Kirk's funeral to say terrible things about Charlie. And I said, I literally quoted him. And then Piers Morgan said, you shouldn't have quoted him. I'm like, I shouldn't have quoted the man that you're adulating, literally using his own words. He goes, that was hateful and wrong. By using his own words. But I digress.
Turn up your volume a little bit more. And look, like, this is what I'm saying. It's very difficult to continue. And I had this conversation. I'll say this, going off of what you said yesterday. My girlfriend said, I really would rather you not go on MSNBC anymore. And which I haven't in the last couple of months, for the fact that I think that MSNBC is not operating in good faith, where I think that they have fired people who, in order to appease Donald Trump, And I think that they are not having the deep analytical conversations that they used to. And on top of that, she was just like, and directing unnecessary hate when you're already right public. And so I think that it is important for folks like us to continue to ask ourselves, what value am I adding, and what space? And I'm not saying just speak to the choir, because I don't think that that's helpful either. But I think that we are at a crescendo moment where we really need to be thoughtful about our energy and where we're going to be of most value. And I think that people like Piers Morgan have always operated in absolutely bad faith. I think that every single person that you named on that panel is there for a boost in their ego. They could give a fuck about the country, and I mean everybody. And so I think that for you, as you move forward with your very large and impactful platform, not as big as Donald Trump, evidently, because like that comparison was just like
a middle-aged. I literally said, so you're saying that I have a responsibility to tone down the rhetoric, but you haven't asked Donald Trump to, and you didn't ask Stephen Miller. It's like, but you called him Hitler. I said, I didn't call him Hitler. It was JD Vance. See, the funny thing is, I do come in prepared, and they have no response. So then they just attack. But it's very interesting. You all watch it. Look, it's very hard to stay elegant in that type of situation because it's 4 against 1. I think I did my part. I don't yell and scream. But I agree with you, Danielle, because I think, watching that rally yesterday, and we're going to talk about it, because it was a rally. It wasn't a memorial. Watching that rally yesterday, it became clear to me that I was witnessing cultish behavior. First and foremost, if I can go back to my Bay Area roots, it was hella weird. Overwhelmingly, it was hella weird. It was like a weird, disturbing, overwhelmingly, not exclusively, hard right, white Christian cultish rally without in honor of a man, but they didn't really play his quotes and rhetoric, because if they did, it would be a terrible look because of what Charlie Kirk spent his life. And he had every right to. I said that on the show. He had every right to use and abuse the First Amendment to mock George Floyd and MLK and LGBTQ people and Muslims. And I also brought up the inconvenient fact on the show that didn't like that when David DePape, a Trump supporter, beat up and almost killed Paul Pelosi, he asked his viewers to bail him out. And like you said, Danielle, he asked for Joe Biden to be tortured and executed. He had every right to, and we have every right to call it out. But notice that whole rally had nothing to do with his death or even forgiveness, because even his wife, we'll talk about in a second, Erica Kirk, did a really beautiful thing. Said, funeral, at his funeral, she said, there should be peace, right? Love, forgiveness. And right afterwards, Danielle, what did Donald Trump, the president of the United States, say? He goes, I'm not like Charlie. I hate my opponents. And then we saw yesterday, and what we've seen in the past 2 weeks, Danielle, is before there was any suspect, where do they blame? The radical left, they, them, transgender, immigrants. And I keep saying, who's they, them? It was a white guy, Tyler Robinson. But it's literally a movement using the murder of Charlie Kirk in a way, folks, that Nazis did. Stephen Miller literally yesterday quotes almost verbatim Goebbels' speech, right? Goebbels did 2 speeches. There was and I sent this to Danielle yesterday. Horst Wessel was a young brown shirt, right? A young member of the SS. He was killed by communists. And they took this young, kind of, not really famous, no one knew him, Horst Wessel, and Goebbels, the chief minister of propaganda, made Horst Wessel into a martyr, all right, in 1930. They made him into a martyr, and they used his murder as a martyrdom movement that made the cult, if you will, gave him fervor and rage against them. Them was anyone who was the enemy of the Nazi party. And then in 1932, Goebbels had the speech, "The storm is coming," right? And, look at this. This came out from a few days ago, 2 weeks ago. Watch for these moves in the coming days. I think this tweet was from 2 weeks ago. Instant sanctification by the leader. Trump's eulogy posts are already defining the frame. Rituals that migrate into rallies. Attribution before evidence. Policy ratchet tied to grief. Calls for emergency powers. Merchandising the memory. Danielle, check.
I mean, so this is the thing that I will say that I found, like, one, I personally did not subject myself to watching the hate rally. And I want to say a couple of things on it as we, kind of move through today's show. One, I didn't subject myself to it because I don't need to watch that shit. I can watch the clips afterwards and I can see what was said. I just want to remind people to have, and I know it's really difficult, a certain amount of gratitude for people revealing exactly who they are. And I mean people and institutions and networks showing you what they support, showing you what they value. 95 Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, right, minority leader in the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries, minority in the House, signed on to a memoriam to name a day after Charlie Kirk. 95 Democrats. And I'm saying to myself, what in the fuck is wrong with these people? But now I understand, and I continue to remind myself that we need to stop pretending that this Democratic Party is anything other than complicit. We need to stop, right, wasting our time and energy believing that they are going to turn into something that they never have any intention of turning into. They are complicit. They are accomplices to the rise of fascism. Because there is no way that you listen to any of the things that Charlie Kirk has said. Turn down your gain a little bit. Your gain, not the volume. There's no way. Yeah. There's no way that you can read the things that Charlie Kirk has said, listen to Charlie Kirk in his own words, and say to yourself, as a Democrat, that is supposed to be about this large umbrella, bringing in all of these disparate groups of communities, right? And integrating them into this large umbrella of democracy. And that you're going to listen to this man and say to yourself, oh, yes, he deserves a day to be honored. Are we mad? Like, are we fucking kidding? And so to have your own leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, who takes more money from AIPAC than other people, Chuck Schumer, like these politicians are bought and sold. And so we need to say to ourselves, great. So if in fact we have elections, which I don't believe that we will, but if in fact we do, you have a clear directive of the 95 people who do not deserve to be in fucking office. They do not deserve. So you don't have to say, well, who is this and who is that? Look at that list of 95. Are they in your state? Are they in your district? This is the time to call those people out, to find out who can primary them and get them the fuck out of office.
I was not shocked. I want to say I am shocked. I wasn't shocked by the fact that 95 Democrats voted to remember Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, which, by the way, falls on, I mean, this is America. This is exquisite. The birth date of George Floyd. That's the same day, folks. I think it was done unintentionally. I don't think even MAGA realized that. If they did, well, this is America. This is a country that had a civil war because people would rather own slaves than let black people be free. And speaking about black people, if you just look at what Charlie Kirk said about black people, and I actually might have some quotes. I just want people to know, because this is what we talk about civility politics. This is what we talk about bending the knee. This is what we talk about centrist Democrats who will quote who will go after Chet, who has a MAGA hat and is drinking real coffee in a real diner, and try desperately to vote for him, even though he calls us pedophiles that actually, court their base, which is black women and Latinos. This is Charlie Kirk's own words when it comes to black people, if I may, Danielle.
Please, go ahead.
Quoting him. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. That's from last year. If you're an WNBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine? 2022. Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more. 2023. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence or is she there because of affirmative action? 2024. If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racists. That's how he said it. Now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. He also called MLK an awful person. After George Floyd was killed, murdered, he said he was a scumbag. He's also against the Civil Rights Act and promotes the replacement theory, which says that me and Danielle are literally here to replace and weaken white civilization. And the replacement theory was used to radicalize terrorists to commit violence against Black people, Jews, Muslims, and Mexicans. Danielle, please tell me why 95 Democrats decide to honor that.
Because they are spineless. Because they honestly believe that this is how they are going to choose to bring the quote unquote temperature down, Waj. Is that every single time that they have an opportunity to call a spade, they want to pretend that they are the adults in the room. And I say to myself, what the response to that day of quote unquote remembrance should have been Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer offering up a day of remembrance for Melissa Hortman and her husband and their golden retriever that was gunned down in their house by Trump supporter Vance Butler. What would have been an opportune moment is to say, you know what, we're actually going to do a joint remembrance and we're going to pick this day, right, for these two people. But they didn't do that because they don't want to be the adults in the room, because they want, right? They want to continue to take our money, continue to take our attention and do absolutely nothing and make us believe that we are powerless in this moment. I'm telling you, and I've said this before, I'm not interested in referring to myself as a Democrat anymore, right? And I said that months and months and months ago. Right? I do not subscribe to the bullshit that has become the Democratic Party. And this to me was the nail in the coffin. If I needed any more, right, to understand who this party is, they are weak and they are complicit. Because every time that you're given an opportunity to do something better, to call attention to the fascism that is rising, to call attention to what is happening, and you've had 10 years to figure out how to deal with Donald Trump and MAGA, 10 fucking years, and you still don't know what to do, then get out of the fucking way. Because this is what they did yesterday, right? Please talk to them, Waj, about Stephen Miller. I'm not playing the clip because I hate that son of a bitch more than like all of them. I hate him, and I refuse to like
this is
my eardrums.
I saw part and parcel of Charlie Kirk's. I don't even call it a funeral. It was a rally. It was a political rally. They used and abused his death to do a huge propaganda rally with fireworks, because that's how you honor the dead. And Donald Trump coming out to fireworks and dancing in a football stadium, totally normal. Really weird, disturbing cultish behavior. MAGA thought it was the greatest event because it was like 70,000 people there. But to the rest of us, both the majority here and abroad, we saw a cult. Stephen Miller is the most powerful unelected man in the world right now. He used the platform, to bring people together, to unify, to heal. No. He almost verbatim, in parts, quotes Goebbels' speech from 1932, "The storm is coming." And Goebbels, for those who don't know, was the chief propagandist for the Nazis. And as we said, he used Horst Wessel, who was a 21-year-old kind of like nobody soldier, young youth soldier, his murder, and elevated him into a rallying cry, a martyr. Charlie Kirk was far more well-known, but still, young man murdered by Tyler Robinson, not transgender, not Muslim, not Black, not immigrant, white man from a conservative Trump voting family who loved guns. Just saying. And then he said the following: "We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us, because we stand for good, what is virtuous." And then he went on: "You are nothing. They have nothing. They've created nothing." Danielle, how does this lower the temperature?
I mean, but that's the point, is that it's not meant to lower the temperature. It's not meant to do anything other than have it be their call to arms. And I want to say something about why this was done in a football stadium. I want to say something about the numbers. What we have to understand, and what I really want people to get, is that Donald Trump, what he is very good at is creating illusions. He is the Wizard of Oz of MAGA. And so if you get all of these hate-filled people and you put them in a football stadium, it looks massive. Like there are more of them than there are of us. And how could we possibly fight back? It is all about the imagery. And that's nothing to do with the substance and the reality, right? The reality is that Donald Trump's poll numbers are in the trash. The reality is that his own people are turning against him. The reality is that everyone has started to slowly come up out of their slumber and recognize that he, I don't know, is a fucking liar, and that our economy is in the trash, right? That you're about to lose healthcare, that your kids are not going to receive the kind of education that they need, on and on, that the environment is going to be dirtier, on and on and on and on. But if you gather all of these people and you create this spectacle, do you know what they're not talking about? All of their failings. Do you know what else they're not talking about? The Epstein files. You know what else they're not talking about? The fact that there have been reports that have come out that said that Donald Trump and Netanyahu are in a scheme with Elon Musk and others to fast forward the genocide, wipe out the people, the Palestinians in Gaza, so that they can then lay over concrete onto what is going to be a fucking cemetery, so that they can build up the quote unquote fucking Riviera of the Middle East. That's what they want to divert attention to. So they want to make you believe that you have no power, that you are hopeless. Look at their numbers in comparison to the fact that we do not have a uniting party that is coming and saying, this is what we need to do. It is falling on the people. It is falling on communities. And so it was a spectacle and it was bullshit, right? And that's what I want folks to understand. And I want to play, because I do think that it's important, even though, God help me, I really don't have the energy to listen to Donald Trump today. So I apologize, folks, in advance. But I want to reference what you were talking about, Waj, in terms of Erica Kirk and what she tried to offer, and then in comparison to what Donald Trump did. Two different pathways that are being presented. And we just take a listen.
That young man on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Okay, Donald Trump comes on right after, folks, for those who didn't watch, and he says this.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true.
What do you say to that? And you know what was interesting in the clip with Erica Kirk? And they pan out to the audience, they pan out to the field, and I see sprinklings of people of color. And I just am like beside myself when I see that. Because
chickens for Colonel Sanders.
What in the entire fuck are you doing there?
Chickens for Colonel Sanders. And also Christian nationalism goes a long way. In the NFL, speaking about football, you see a lot of Black and Latino players who are hardcore Christians line up for MAGA. It's kind of its own like little, like Clarence Thomas, I'm the good one. Tony Dungy, I'm the good one. Oh, these people are against the wicked, the evil, the demons. That's the rest of us, right? And speaking about demonization, again, throughout that entire rally, it wasn't really a funeral service. They were blamed, them. And I keep thinking to myself, they is Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old white man from a Trump voting family who was apolitical. What are you talking about? And the interesting thing was, notice after Erica Kirk said what she said about love and forgiveness, right? They applauded. Right after Donald Trump comes in and literally openly admits, yeah, no, I'm not all about that. Sorry, Charlie. Sorry, Erica. And you know what they did? They applauded.
Yeah.
They applauded. So it shows you vengeance is on the mind. Vengeance. And when I was on Piers Morgan today, the one thing I tried to agree on, I said, we could all agree it was a terrible murder, and we could all agree the one good thing about that rally yesterday was Erica Kirk calling for forgiveness. I just wish Donald Trump would come on and actually then follow her lead, right? But then both Eric and Carrie Lake went out and said, I know Erica, but just because she said forgiveness doesn't mean she's not done with vengeance. Just because she means for forgiveness doesn't mean she doesn't want punishment, capital punishment for this person, right? So it just goes to show you this type of Christianity is skin deep. Jesus is used as a mascot. Jesus is used as a mascot for the end goal, which is power and white supremacy. You even look, folks, in America, you had people who went to church, who were very religious, who did barbecues, who were married, who had kids, right? Who were good husbands. And then at night, they went and put on a pointy hat and burned crosses. You also had the White Civility Council. They thought the KKK was a little too, if you will, gross and blunt, and a little unrefined. But they had the same end goals of the KKK, the same talking points. They didn't wear the pointy hats and burn crosses. They had legal notepads. They had nice manicured lawns and a nice tie, and they wore their glasses, and their wives wore their Sunday best. And they were civil and they were polite. And they didn't want to get their hands dirty, but they were perfectly fine promoting what, Danielle? Segregation, right? They wanted to go back to the good old days, 1860s. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at like MAGA as a whole, right? There's different parts of it. There are those who go and raid the Capitol and try to kill Mike Pence and smear shit on the walls. There are those who openly hold the Confederate flag and say racist stuff. And then there's the polite ones who applaud Donald Trump, who says, nope, I hate my opponents, who are perfectly fine supporting Donald Trump, literally, folks, we'll talk about it, going against his enemies, right? Trying to use the DOJ and Pam Bondi to go against his enemies, literally unleashing Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, to extort like a gangster, right? Basically a compliance from ABC and not just ABC, folks. It's not just ABC. It's anyone and everyone. You better do what I tell you to do or else, which is why you had Tim Apple, Mark Zuckerberg, back in the day, Elon Musk, all of these people bending the knee to Donald Trump, right? And then what better way to honor a man whom now MAGA considers basically a prophet, Charlie Kirk, who was horribly murdered and should not have been murdered, I think we all agree, by Tyler Robinson, not they, not them, not transgender, not Muslims, not immigrants, Tyler Robinson, one man, white man from a conservative Christian family, killed Charlie Kirk. What better way to honor him than to spend 45 minutes of your allotted time as the president of the United States of America to indulge in Festivus, go against your opponents, go against your critics, talk about sending the National Guard to Chicago, and then bragging about your failed tariffs, which, by the way, have just increased the prices of everything. And now Americans across the board are losing money. Danielle, you tell me.
Take a listen.
We took out 1,500 career criminals, 1,500. If you have 3 career criminals, that can make a big difference. But I'm so proud of Washington, D.C., and now we're going into Memphis, and we'll get that one straightened out fast. And then we're going into some others, but we're going to go to Chicago, and we're going to have Charlie very much in mind when we go into Chicago, and we'll get that one straightened out. You have an incompetent governor who he thinks it's okay when 11 people get murdered over the weekend. He thinks you don't have any crime when 11.
So here's, because I'm not going to make you all listen to all of that, but the reality is this. We know that that was not the way that normal people honor the dead. We know that this is their Reichstag fire, that this is their reason to clamp down, militarize, spread their lies, quelch dissent, and put the hammer down on America. This is their moment. That's what they believe. They're going to use this moment in order to put forward the final throngs of Project 2025. And I think that it is important for us, like, not to be deterred from telling the truth. Because, you know, it to me, Waj, when I listened to this, when I saw that, and I was watching the WNBA semifinals, and, you know, in between there was like a projection on the TV that was, you know, oh, and coming up was going to be this memorial. And everyone at the sports bar that I was at started booing loudly.
Where were you? Brooklyn?
I was in Manhattan.
Man.
Started booing loudly when they saw the image and the memorial come across the screen. And I can't tell you, because again, no one is booing a funeral, but that's not what that was. And for you to be tricked and hoodwinked into being told, how dare you, how callous, how awful of you not to honor the dead. They didn't honor the dead. How dare you hijacked the death, the murder of this man, regardless of what I think about him, in order to put forward your own political agenda. Donald Trump, I guarantee you, when he walked off of that stage, he forgot all about Charlie Kirk.
Oh, Danielle.
He does not care about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk had an actual memorial. And what did Donald Trump do? He went golfing. But when it was an opportunity for him to aggrandize in front of 70,000 people and it be on national television, you see, that's when Donald Trump showed up. But when it was time to mourn the man who he said was his friend in private, Donald Trump couldn't be bothered to be there. So don't tell I'm just saying, like, don't tell the rest of us that then we're supposed to bow our heads in some type of solemn nature when Donald Trump bowed his head to put a ball down on his tee so he could golf for the day. Give me a fucking break.
And also, I'm glad you brought that receipt of golfing, but also the Jimmy Kimmel clip, right? If you all watch it, first of all, Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything wrong. I saw the clip. Maybe he could have worded it better, but we all knew what he was talking about. And plus, who cares? He's a late night comedian. He said that the entire last week, MAGA tried to prove, which they did, or desperately tried to show the world that he was anything other than their own. And then it was a setup. It was a setup to the clip that he played of Donald Trump, who was so hurt by this prophet, Charlie Kirk, that when a reporter asked him, and we've played this clip before, he said, yeah, I'm doing great. Anyway, did you see the White House ballroom? Literally, folks, in the same breath, he'd even pause. He literally pivoted from, yeah, Charlie Kirk, yeah, great. And then talked about what, Danielle? The ballroom. Mm-hmm. And then, like as Danielle said, instead of, attending that Kennedy Center rally or funeral, whatever, he went and golfed. And then they had a photo of him, and they knew this photo was bad. They had a photo of him dancing like this at, I think, a New York Jets game, which is why last night they released a photo of him. I don't know if you saw, in the same place, sitting on a chair hunched over with someone with their hand over them, Danielle. And everyone's like, I think his cankles just got tired, and he was sitting. So I think what yesterday and I think the last 2 weeks have proven, Danielle, is the following. And going back to what the Democrats did, You cannot negotiate in good faith with this MAGA cult. It has become a cult. They dispense cruelty but demand civility. Have you noticed, folks? They have not played Charlie Kirk's actual words. They have not shown actual clips, because if they did, Danielle, what would it show? It would show, I don't know, hate against black people, encouraging, bigotry, going against LGBTQ people, women, and so forth, right? And instead, they're blaming us. And what happens is they always do this. You're the ones causing hate by calling out our hate. You're the ones inciting violence by saying that we quote Hitler. You're the ones, right, who hate us, even though we spent the past 2 weeks before there was a suspect or a motive blaming a radical left, even though, by the way, folks, 2 days ago, this Kash Patel's FBI came out and said they still could not find anything tying him to the left. And to be fair, they couldn't find anything tying him to the hard right. It seems like he was an apolitical online gamer, allegedly radicalized by Charlie Kirk's homophobia or homophobic comments. And that's what he's like. And he apparently had a lover and he's like, I'm done. Took his grandfather's rifle and apparently killed him. Notice that they don't talk about gun control. Notice they don't talk about saving children. Folks, the same day that Charlie Kirk was killed in neighboring Denver, you remember? Everyone's forgotten. There was a 6-year-old white boy who had access to an AR-15 rifle, who was radicalized online by following, wait for it, white supremacist conspiracies, who shot 3 of his students and then killed himself. Danielle, have you noticed that's not in the news? Have you noticed it's been scrubbed, much like the DOJ scrubbing the 2024 study from its website that said the #1 domestic terror threat in America for the past 10 years is what, Danielle?
White domestic terrorism.
There you go.
So, folks, there you have it. We gave you the remix of what happened over the weekend at this hate rally. And I just want to say this before we pivot, because there are so many other things that are happening that are incredibly important that all of this has become a distraction from, and that is part of their larger strategy, is that I will say this, that if something ever happens to me, don't politicize my death. don't use it as a way to spread hate. Don't use it at the fact that this woman is now, Erica Kirk, is not even going to grieve, that she is just going to pick up the mic and the helm of Turning Point USA, which these billionaires are dumping more and more money into, because not because they give a shit about Charlie Kirk.
No.
Because they don't want to lose their hold on
there you
go. the alt-right youth. And they don't want any time to pass. And they don't want someone else that they can't control to come in and take power. And so I just have to say, this was not a funeral. It did not honor him. And it was their Reichstag fire that they are going to continue. But in the meantime, folks, what is happening? Let us tell you. So, a big scoop by MSNBC found that Trump border czar Tom Homan was under criminal investigation for potential bribery and claims he would steer Fed contracts in the new administration. Undercover at FBI agents recorded him accepting $50,000 in cash. The Justice Department shuttered the probe when Donald Trump became president. Bless you. When Donald Trump became president. So here's my first thing, Waj, as we are learning more about the $50,000 in cash that Tom Homan took as a bribe, and he was under investigation. This is under the Biden administration. I'm assuming it's under the Biden administration because it went away after Donald Trump became president. Can you explain to me, Waj, why the public wasn't made aware of this?
The reason why the public was not made aware that the borders are Tom Homan was caught in an FBI sting operation, openly accepting $50,000 worth of cash in what was that name of the restaurant? I know the name of the restaurant starts with a C. It's here in the DMV area. Was because Donald Trump just asked the DOJ to shut it down. That's all.
So, but I just want to know. So, was he being investigated under Biden? Was the investigation opened during the Biden administration?
Oh, yes. So, interestingly enough, is showing the uselessness of also Biden and Democrats.
This is what
Thank
I'm
you so
trying
much.
to get at.
Yeah. Last year, this was found out in September.
Okay.
This is the borders are. And Tom Homan openly said, by the way, folks, before Donald Trump was elected, that he would deport citizen children. Along with the undocumented. And this was discovered in September. So Danielle's memory is correct that this happened during the Biden administration. And Democrats decided, let's be civil and not talk about this. Much like how the Obama administration said, oh, Mitch McConnell, you don't want us to talk about the fact that we have information that Russia is interfering in this 2016 election to help Donald Trump. Oh, you think that will be too mean and partisan? Okay. And meanwhile, Kava, thank you, Susan Morris. And meanwhile, you literally have Tom Homan accepting bags of cash. Literally, this is illegal. It was an FBI sting operation. And Donald Trump said, DOJ, I like Tom Homan, forget about it. And can you go back to the Megyn Kelly quote? Because I think it's very instructive. They don't care. Danielle, how do you deal with someone who literally demands civility from us but gives us cruelty and doesn't care?
I mean, look,
says that they're pro-law enforcement but literally celebrates Tom Homan accepting bribes, who pardoned 1,600 violent insurrectionists, and then 95 Democrats turn around and say, well, we want to be civil, so let's just ignore, all of Charlie Kirk's, entire history of hate, and let's just, be the good guys.
Vote every single Democrat out of office. Every
single one. Jasmine Crockett's good. AOC's good.
No. Every single Democrat that has been complicit, that has been going along for the get along. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Jasmine Crockett's or the AOCs. I'm not talking about the people that have tried to use their platforms for good. I'm talking about everybody else, because we are here. We are here because of both parties. And I'm not interested in continuing to call out the Republicans' hypocrisy. I'm interested in people getting fucking angry. I'm interested in people getting angry enough, right? The masses getting angry enough that you decide to do something about it. Because these people are playing in your fucking face, right? They are playing in your face while you are struggling to pay your bills and pay your taxes and keep your head above water. These motherfuckers are out in the open accepting $50,000 in cash. They are wearing Rolexes as they are strolling and watching detainees being treated like animals in these for-profit ICE detention centers. They are literally playing in your fucking faces. And so until people start to get actually angry, right, and realizing that, this is bullshit and we can do something about it, I don't know what else. But I want you to listen to Senator Chris Murphy, who was on.
Well, Daniel, real quick, someone said I'm still a bit low. Is this better?
I mean, to me, you're fine.
How about y'all? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you sound much better than you did at the beginning.
Okay, wonderful. Please go ahead.
Take a listen. Oh, hold 1 second, please, because every once in a while, these videos don't like to play for me.
And by the way, before she plays it, that's Jonathan
here we go.
Go ahead.
Went after him falsely. Again, it's really important to underscore what happened here, right? This is a Republican U.S. attorney in Virginia who came to the conclusion that the Attorney General of New York did nothing wrong, that there was no evidence of a crime. And so Donald Trump, because he doesn't care about the facts, all he cares about is the threat of imprisonment for his political enemies so that it suppresses the speech of other people who might speak up, is now going to put his own political loyalist in charge of that investigation. And again, I think you have to put it in an even broader context, because there's two things happening. One, you are going to be prosecuted for political speech in this country, but you are also going to be excused. You are going to be let off for real, actual criminality if you are a supporter of the president. Witness what happened to every single violent January 6th protester let out of jail. See what happened to Tom Homan, his border czar, who literally accepted a bag of cash, $50,000, and the investigation was dropped once Donald Trump became president. So there are just two standards of justice now in this country. If you are a friend of the president, a loyalist of the president, you can get away with nearly anything, including beating the hell out of police officers. But if you are an opponent of the president, you may find yourself in jail. Again, that is Cuba. That's Iran. That's Russia. That is not the United States. And this just has to be a moment where leaders come.
Has to be a moment for what? Because again, I say, this investigation was opened under Biden. This investigation was opened under Merrick Garland. This investigation was never made public, right? When Merrick Garland had the opportunity to put the nail in the coffin for MAGA, what did he do? Absolutely fucking nothing, right? And who allowed him to stay as Attorney General while he wasn't doing anything, while Donald Trump continued to escalate his rhetoric and his violence against the left, right? And continue to use his campaign as his get out of jail free card, Joe Biden. So folks, when I say to you, it is not one or the other. Everyone needs to open up their eyes. Everyone needs to have and exercise the ability of critical thought here. This is an opportunity we are being faced with in this country to get rid of the status quo, to get rid of systems and people and institution and oligarchs that are totally fine with creating government that works for them and them alone, that works for the grift and for the grift alone, that allows them to seem as if they care about equity and justice while they're taking money from corporate interests that give the same amount of money to Republicans. So folks, when I say it is not one or the other, it is not about, oh, well, we have to get rid of Republicans and put more Democrats in. You have to ask yourself what kind of fucking Democrats you actually want in office, because to have a D by your name doesn't mean that you actually give a damn. Okay. So
Absolutely.
that to me is where I want people to have critical thought. Just because you have a D by your name doesn't mean that you're going to do something, as Michelle Obama had said. And so if you are going to continue to vote in people that are complicit, that are accomplices to the destruction of our democracy, then you are going to get what you deserve.
Absolutely.
So we have to be a lot more critical and a lot more thoughtful about who is going to be running if in fact we have elections, because I don't believe that we will. And if we are not, then it's going to be the people who are going to decide that, you know what, we need to collectively resist. We need to boycott. We need to do what the people in Italy are doing right now, which is they, across their trade unions, have decided to shut down the country in protest for Palestine, right? Because that's what they have decided to do. They did it in Nepal, right? The young people came up and they said, you know what? We're not supporting this government. And they ousted their prime minister. You are watching people fight back all around the world, all around the country. And so where is America? America is waiting for some white knight. America is waiting for some mythical democratic Superman to come in and do something, when in fact, these people are giving you an opportunity to realize that you're the ones that you've been waiting for, because these people, they're not it.
And listen, they don't want the Avengers to come because they don't want reformation. They want restoration.
Come on.
They do not want reformation. They
on.
want restoration. And this is why the civility politics of all these powerful and wealthy, not exclusively, but mostly white men come from, right? Even the Bidens, right? Let's just go back to how things were. Remember that civility politics? Why can't we just all get along and drink our brandy and, you know, slap each other on the back and trade some jokes? And, you know, well, we disagree on immigration and we disagree on trade, but we could all get together and go back to the good old neoliberal days where we get our corporate donations and we all kind of just come in and play our part. They want restoration. The majority demands reformation. Even look at this milquetoast Hollywood response to Jimmy Kimmel. You know, you have a few people coming out and being bold, but a whole bunch of them are like, I think apparently just today, Danielle, Hollywood Reporters said like 400 well-known people came out, but it's still so timid. And when it's the rest of us, Black people, Muslims, immigrants, women, LGBTQ people who say reformation, then they come out and say the following: tut, tut, darky, easy there. Why are you being so radical? Why are you being so divisive? Why are you being so hateful? Why can't you be civil? Why can't you mourn properly the man who spent his entire life inspiring hate against your people? Why can't you mourn properly the man who mocked MLK and George Floyd and literally before he died said Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America? This is why they are not our saviors. They will not help us. They will be tools that help us in incremental changes. But other than that, and these are also for many of these people, right? Like the never Trump white Republicans, many of them, not all of them, the center, the mansions, even the center left Democrats, all the 95 who voted for this, they will not help you. They are not the answer. To echo what Daniel said, we need a culling of the Democratic Party. I'm with Jasmine Crockett. I'm with AOC. I'm with all these people because look, she's a Black woman. She goes, I'm paraphrasing what she said. She goes, why should I sit there and celebrate and mourn a guy who literally, says I'm replacing Americans? F that. And so we need that type of energy. And look, Zoran Mamdani, folks, Muslim, brown skin, son of immigrants who ain't playing that game. And what have the Democrats done? Have spent more time, the Democrat leaders have spent more time attacking Hakeem Jeffries than attacking, and you're not necessarily attacking, but talking about the horrible things that Charlie Kirk has done in his life. They still haven't endorsed him.
No,
and
but they didn't endorse. They spent more time attacking Zoran. They spent more time than going and lifting up this day of remembrance and memoriam.
Yeah.
Than they have endorsing Zoran Mamdani. That's it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to show you this. I think this weekend was very instructive. It's all rigged. The game is rigged. And I refuse to play in a rigged game, right? We are asked to reduce the temperature as literally we are being called pedophiles and child murderers. We are to be blamed for violence done by a white guy. It was white on white crime, and friggin' historically Black colleges and me and you are getting death threats. The number one domestic terror threat in America is white supremacist violence, and the DOJ scrubbed it and now is blaming transgender people. They have elevated and deified a man who literally had every right to with his First Amendment, but wasted his life literally inspiring people's worst demons to go against the most marginalized, right? And this is the person that they choose to elevate, 95 Democrats. Meanwhile, they have not endorsed Zoran Mamdani. So I say, I'm done playing that game. I don't care. Like, Danielle, let them say whatever they want. Let them come out and say, tut, tut, tut. Let them say, Wajat's a hate monger. Let them say, I'm divisive. Go ahead. Say all this stuff. I'm done playing your rigged game. I'm done playing the game. I'm not Charlie Brown. I'm not going to sit there. I know Lucy's going to lift the football. And if you're Charlie Brown and dumb enough to play with Lucy, egg on your face. I'm going to do my own thing. And I believe the majority is with me. And I believe, inshallah, I can mobilize with this majority that demands reformation. If you don't believe me, I give you Zoran Mamdani. He's winning over Black people, Jews, Muslims, immigrants with a message of affordability, going against billionaires and not doing politics the old, broken, corrupt, white way.
So with the few minutes that we have left, I want to talk about where we are with Disney, because you brought it up, and where we are right as I was coming on air. I think that it was said by Aaron Parnas, your friend.
I don't know. I don't know Aaron. I know Lev.
Oh, Lev. That was said that Disney was not prepared for the kind of backlash that they have been receiving since canceling Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is set to have another meeting this week with the folks at Disney, because guess what? They now want to bring him back.
Whoopsie.
And if I am Jimmy Kimmel, I'm telling you, with the amount of boycotting that you are seeing happen, you need to make sure that if you decide to come back, that you come back on your own fucking terms and not the terms that are being laid out for you. And so what I find
can I say, you know what I think real quick, Danielle, if I can ask you this, I was thinking about this. If I'm Jimmy Kimmel, this is what I would do. Because Jimmy Kimmel also is worried about the nearly 200 people that he employs.
Yeah.
So what I would do is the following. I don't know how long his contract runs for. I think maybe 1 year and 2 years.
No, it's up in May.
Okay, so what I would do
May of 2026.
I would get confirmation of payment in advance for my entire team.
Yep.
I would run through May. I would shit on Trump and MAGA and ABC and Elon Musk and the Broligarchy for May.
I call there.
Yeah, and I would ensure that his entire team is paid off until May. For the next year.
And me, I would go even further. I would say, if I'm Jimmy Kimmel and now you're watching, it was last week was $4 billion that they lost.
Allegedly, almost $4 billion, 7% down.
Close to $4 billion. Right now, the stock is down 1.15%. If I am Jimmy Kimmel, I'm saying my contract is up in May. I want all of my people to receive a year severance.
There you
go. Every single one of them. I don't even care about me. I want them all to receive an
extra year. I agree.
Extra year of severance. I want them all to receive a package for a year. Their healthcare covered, their expenses covered, their salary, everything. Right? Don't care about myself. Right? Because Jimmy Kimmel is rich. This is not about like him. This is about ABC capitulating to fascists and denying First Amendment rights. And so what I find really interesting is, folks, there are people, oddly enough, this is how I know I'm in hell. Because when I can find myself on the same side of shit as Tucker Carlson, as fucking Candace Owens, you know that you're in the upside down. And so here is, who is this? Michael Eisner, who came out and said, where is all the leadership gone? If not for the university presidents, law firm managing partners, and corporate chief executives standing up against bullies, who then will step up for the First Amendment? The suspending indefinitely of Jimmy Kimmel immediately after the chairman of FCC's aggressive yet hollow threatening of the Disney company is yet another example of out-of-control intimidation. Maybe the Constitution should have said Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press except in one's political or financial interest. By the way, for the record, this ex-CEO, this is the ex-CEO of Disney, finds Jimmy Kimmel very talented and funny. So that is Michael Eisner, who was the CEO before Bob Iger came in, who is now overseeing Disney as the CEO and is in a world of trouble. I want you to also listen to, of all the fucking people, Ted Cruz. And let me see if this will let me.
Who hates Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel has made fun of Ted Cruz for years. This is Ted Cruz, folks.
Kimmel will be fired. I think, you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. And again, we may ultimately be called to be a judge on that.
No. Look, I like Brendan Carr. He's a good guy. He's the chairman of the FCC. I work closely with him. But what he said there is dangerous as hell.
For people that are listening, because this is going to be, quote, controversial, so I want to make sure we explain it clearly. When you say no and it's dangerous, explain and run this out, the slippery slope that this can open, so that people understand why we're saying it.
So the Federal Communication Commission is in charge of granting broadcast licenses. So ABC, NBC, CBS, they have licenses from the FCC. It is true that under statute, they're required to be in the public interest.
Yep.
What he is saying is Jimmy Kimmel was lying. That's true. He was lying. And his lying to the American people is not in the public interest. And so he threatens explicitly we're going to cancel ABC's license. We're going to take them off the air so ABC cannot broadcast anymore. And I got to say, he threatens it. He says, we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
That's a terrible impression.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And I got to say, look, I understand. Jimmy Kimmel has mocked me so many times I cannot count. The corporate media, they are dishonest. They are liars. I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired. But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying, we don't like what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives. It reminds me of...
So
first of all, that was a terrible impression. I just have to say that
it was so bad. But this is how I don't even want to conserve them. Republicans are projecting into the future, is that if you allow for this to take hold, where it is normalized, that whoever sits in the White House gets to dictate the terms of free speech. And if I don't like what you're saying, you can be removed. What he ended with, or what I ended on, is him saying this is going to backfire on conservatives.
Yep.
Right. And it is the same premise that Tucker Carlson used last week. If you begin down this road of dictating what is covered under free speech, then essentially all of us who sit around and perpetuate hate, essentially, we're going to be out of a job. That's what Tucker Carlson was saying. That's what Ted Cruz is saying. Like, hold up, wait a minute. You know, I like all these deportation things and I like all of this other hateful shit that you're doing. But if you now start to mess with my money and my ability to speak to an audience, this is going to be a problem in the long run, right? And so this is, again, of all the fucking people, here now is Candace Owens, who I like, folks, I cannot make this stuff up. This timeline is obviously us all in hell.
And she wasn't invited, folks. Listen, before we get into this Candace quote and this clip, Candace Owens was not
over time, but like,
yeah, we'll go a couple minutes over time. We'll finish. Candace Owens was not invited because Candace Owens has been on a warpath, because Candace Owens does not trust Kash Patel and the FBI and their breakdown of the Charlie Kirk's murder. And more people have been watching Candace Owens right now than pretty much any other right-wing conservative. Candace Owens has like the ear of about a third of MAGA right now. So she wasn't invited because she has gone all out saying this is not a left thing or a right thing. They're lying to us. And by they, I mean Kash Patel and the Trump administration. And even Candace Owens, in addition to Candace Owens and Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Tim Dillon, and others have come out, including Tucker Carlson, because they know, folks, I want to take it a step back. Danielle's talking about, what happens? Barry Weiss. They know this will be used against them if a Democrat comes in, but they also know Trump is a vindictive, whiny snowflake. And they know that right now there's fissures in MAGA over, again, Charlie Kirk's murder, over Israel and Palestine, over the Epstein files. And they remember that Mike Pence was running for his life on January 6th, Danielle. They're not stupid. And they just saw Donald Trump use and abuse Charlie Kirk's memorial to do a 45-minute grievance. So they're looking out for themselves and their back.
Let's take a listen. Let me see. Can I pull this up? Where is it? I'm trying to play it. Hold 1 second, because I need to delete one thing. We played so many videos today. My apologies, friends.
Chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, jumped up and he criticized Jimmy Kimmel's remarks. He threatened federal action against ABC affiliates who carried the show. What? Federal action if you carry the Jimmy Kimmel show? Does that seem right to you? Okay? Again, if you're on the right and you cheered this on, do you understand? We never, ever, ever should be applauding federal action when it comes to speech. Okay? We're all losing. We are all losing. You have to wake up. That's what happened. Brendan Carr of the FCC was joining Benny Johnson, and that's what he said, that he absolutely wants to make sure that people are not carrying this show anymore, and that after, one of the mergers that they did, I just see the same people are constantly being empowered. And I want to point that out to you because you have to be more conscious of that. It's like they use our emotions, left versus right, to manipulate all of us. And it's completely wrong and it's completely crazy. And they're also calling for him to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. What?
Like,
well, I've been watching her show the last couple of days just to see where it's going. It's amazing. It's awesome.
I swear to God, I know I'm in hell when I have played at least 3 clips over the last week of Candace Owens' show where I'm like, oh, dear God, she's making sense. Is this a fever dream that I am having? But the fact is that this is what is happening. While you are busy, I want to bring it back full circle to the beginning. While we are busy, right, paying attention to the spectacle and the political theater that Donald Trump and his MAGA folks are engaged in, you are missing the fissures that are happening. You are missing the grifting that is happening. You are missing the cover-up around the Epstein files that is happening. You are missing how RFK Jr. is going after trying to kill our children, how Donald Trump is going after IUDs and birth control. You are missing all of these important things. So you have to ask yourself, while they're busy over here, what am I missing over there?
There you go.
Waj, close us out.
You have Nemec's Manifesto.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And let's close out with Nemec's Manifesto.
Okay, folks. Again, Andor, I always appreciate Waj because I didn't want to watch Andor. And
she really, really did not.
I really, really, really did not. And the first 4 episodes of the first season, I was cursing Wash because it was very slow. But I will say this, and because last week were the Emmys, and Andor, which is platformed by Disney, right, who is now in the tank, right, losing money for their decision to essentially thumbs up for fascism, but literally won an Emmy for a show that was about fascism, is just, I mean.
And the head writer, Dan Gilroy, just called out Disney.
Right. So I want us to close out on this note, which is Nemec's Manifesto and what he says about how we, the people, need to move in this moment and why. And I tell you, again, we are living in a time, folks. It is a moment, and everything that we do from here on out matters.
I'm assuming you've heard it before.
It's been hard to contain.
Just keeps spreading, doesn't it?
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere. And even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And then remember this. The imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. I know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority. And then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try.
That was dope. Folks, this was an extra supersized edition. There are 1,600 people watching on my Substack. There's 2,000 people here. Danielle's Substack, there's also people watching. This is Democracy-ish. It's Monday and Friday at 12 p.m. Please subscribe to Danielle's YouTube, Danielle Moody. I also have a YouTube channel. Danielle has a Substack, Dam's Digest. I have a Substack, The Left Hook. Everything is free because we're terrible capitalists. If you can, please become a paid subscriber. Give some money to Danielle. And then if you have some money left over, give some money to me because I have 800 kids, but it's okay if you don't. And remember, folks, we're in it now. We give it to you straight. We don't bullshit. We call it out. What we're witnessing with MAGA, just trust the evidence of your eyes and ears. It is a fascist movement. They're using and abusing their power. They're playing for all the marbles. Do not allow yourself to be censored or muzzled by the civility police. They want restoration. We're very clear on the show. We want reformation. We want change. And every single person has a role to play. Every single person has something they can do to chip away, right? Chip away at this fascist machine, right? And this fascist machine is also in bed with corporate Democrats and also the oligarchy. Get yourself informed, be local, help yourself, help your family, run for office, engage in economic boycotts. I canceled Disney. I got 3 kids. That was a bold move. I canceled it. Yesterday, I shared it. Cancel Disney, cancel Hulu, don't watch ESPN. They love money more than anything, Danielle. They love the color green more than anything, and they're already feeling it. And if you don't think you have the power, I want to remind you that there was an economic boycott of Target. And folks, after 11 years, the CEO of Target had to step down because they lost money in foot traffic, and instead that foot traffic went to Costco. So we have power, we have the numbers, we have the majority, and that rally yesterday that you saw was weakness. It was weakness performing as strength. It was weakness. It was a weak cult desperately trying to hold on to power. We have the numbers. That's all I have to say for today, Danielle.
Amazing, folks. I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern with the Danielle Moody Show. Waj, what do you have left up today?
Allison Gill of Mother She Wrote's waiting patiently for me to come on. I was supposed to take a break, but she said, let's do it. And then I have Democratic representative from Texas, the progressive, Greg Casar. It's coming at 3 p.m.
All right.
So after that, I might take a break.
After that, Waj, take a break. Folks, this has been Democracy-ish. We appreciate you all sticking in for this supersized edition. Go check out Waj's Substack. Come back here at 5 p.m. for the Danielle Moody Show. And we will see you back here at 12 p.m. on Friday. But remember, our midweek check-in on Substack at 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Be well, folks. And remember, don't be a fascist.